The air hung heavy with the aroma of hops and barley. Steam billowed from stainless steel tanks, creating a hazy, almost mystical atmosphere. This was St. Iber City Big Storm Brewery, a place where the magic of brewing came to life. Inside the brewery's bustling school, aspiring brewers huddled around gleaming equipment, their faces flushed with excitement and anticipation. Among them stood Jessica, a woman in her early 30s with a passion for beer that burned as brightly as the copper kettles surrounding her. Jessica's heart pounded with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Her eyes, bright and full of dreams, darted around the classroom, taking in every detail of the brewing process. She longed to master the art of crafting the perfect brew, to create a symphony of flavors that would tantalize taste buds and leave a lasting impression. But Jessica harbored a secret shame. She was clumsy, almost comically so. Her hands, though eager to learn, often betrayed her, sending beer ingredients flying through the air like confetti at a parade. Despite her mishaps, Jessica refused to give up. She believed that brewing, like love, required patience, dedication, and a willingness to embrace the unexpected. She was determined to prove herself, to silence the doubts that whispered in her mind, and to find her place in the intoxicating world of craft beer. Little did she know that her journey would lead her to not only brewing success, but also to a love as intoxicating as the most potent IPA. As Jessica attempted to salvage her latest brewing disaster, a shadow fell over her workbench.
Having a bit of trouble there?
Jessica looked up, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, to meet the gaze of Liam, a fellow brewing student. Liam, with his easy smile and confident demeanor, possessed an air of quiet competence that Jessica found both intimidating and alluring. Jessica, I seem to be having a slight disagreement with the laws of gravity.
Don't worry, it happens to the best of us. Here, let me give you a hand.
As Liam stepped closer, Jessica felt a strange flutter in her chest, a sensation that had nothing to do with the brewing process. Liam's touch was gentle yet firm as he helped Jessica right the toppled bag of grain and gather the scattered hops. His presence had a calming effect on Jessica, easing her anxiety and restoring her shattered confidence. As they worked side by side, she found herself drawn to his quiet strength and the passion for brewing that shone in his eyes. Liam, in turn, was intrigued by Jessica's clumsy enthusiasm and her obvious love for the craft. He sensed a kindred spirit beneath her flustered exterior. The afternoon flew by in a blur of shared laughter and brewing tips. Liam, with his patient guidance and encouraging words, helped Jessica salvage her brew, transforming it from a potential disaster into something promising. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the brewery floor, Jessica realized that she had not only learned valuable brewing lessons that day, but had also stumbled upon a connection that she couldn't quite explain. The air between them crackled with unspoken possibilities as they said their goodbyes, each feeling a sense of anticipation for their next encounter. Days turned into weeks, and Jessica found herself looking forward to brewing class more than she ever thought possible. Liam's presence had become a comforting constant, his quiet encouragement a balm to her bruised ego. He had a knack for anticipating her every fumble, catching errant measuring cups and stray hops with a grace that bordered on the supernatural. It was as if he possessed a sixth sense when it came to Jessica and her brewing misadventures. One evening, after a particularly chaotic brewing session, Liam suggested they sample their latest creations.
To salvage brews and happy accidents.
They made their way to the brewery's bustling tasting room, a cavernous space filled with the murmur of conversation and the clinking of glasses. The air hung heavy with the intoxicating aroma of hops, malt, and yeast, a symphony of scents that always made Jessica's heart beat a little faster. As they found a table near the back, Liam raised his glass to Jessica, his eyes crinkling at the corners with amusement. Jessica, and to patient teachers who work miracles with clumsy students. Jessica laughed, her cheeks warming under his gaze. To her surprise, the beer was good, surprisingly so. Gone was the usual hint of burnt sugar or the unwelcome tang of overhopped bitterness. Instead, the flavors were balanced and complex, with a subtle sweetness that lingered on the palate. Jessica's eyes widened in delight as she took another sip, savoring the unexpected success. Liam, watching her reaction with quiet satisfaction, couldn't help but smile.
See, I told you it would turn out all right.
His voice filled with a warmth that spread through Jessica like a shot of good whiskey. As the evening progressed, Jessica and Liam found themselves lost in conversation, their shared passion for brewing forging a bond between them that felt both familiar and exhilarating. They talked about their favorite beer styles, their dream brewing projects, and the magical alchemy of transforming simple ingredients into something truly special. The brewery, usually bustling with activity, seemed to fade into the background as their world narrowed to the small circle of their table. The tasting room was beginning to empty, the last few patrons bidding farewell as the staff prepared for closing time. Lost in their conversation, Jessica and Liam were the last ones left, their laughter echoing through the now quiet space.
You know, there's a legend about this brewery. Jessica, a legend? What kind of legend? They say that hidden somewhere within these walls is a secret recipe, a magical concoction that can bring beer to life.
Liam's eyes gleamed with mischief in the dim light. Jessica, beer that comes to life? Now that's a brew I'd like to try.
Well, legend has it that the recipe is hidden in the old part of the brewery, a labyrinth of storage rooms and abandoned labs where no one ever goes. Some say it's guarded by a grumpy hobgoblin, others by a beer-loving ghost. But no one who's gone looking for it has ever returned to tell the tale.
Jessica, caught up in the moment, felt a thrill of adrenaline course through her. Liam's story, however far-fetched, had awakened a sense of adventure within her. The idea of a hidden recipe, a brewing secret passed down through generations, was too intriguing to resist. Jessica, her usual caution thrown to the wind, found herself agreeing to help Liam search for the legendary concoction.
What's the worst that could happen?
Jessica reasoned, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration as they slipped through a heavy steel door and into the darkened recesses of the old brewery. The air in the abandoned wing was thick with dust and the musty scent of forgotten ingredients. Cobwebs hung from every corner, and the only sounds were the soft creaking of the building and the distant hum of the working brewery, a constant reminder of the modern world they had left behind. Armed with only a flickering flashlight and their shared sense of adventure, Jessica and Liam moved cautiously through the labyrinthine corridors. Each turn seemed to lead to another darkened room, each filled with the ghostly remnants of brewing experiments past. Broken bottles lay scattered on the floor, their labels faded and unreadable. Stacks of dusty barrels lined the walls, their contents a mystery waiting to be uncovered. Jessica, her senses on high alert, felt a shiver run down her spine as she imagined the secrets these walls held.
Are you sure about this?
Jessica whispered to Liam, her voice barely audible above the sound of her own heartbeat.
Relax, it's just an old brewery. What's the worst that could happen?
Liam said, his tone light despite the fact that his grip on the flashlight had tightened perceptibly. His words did little to ease Jessica's apprehension, but she pressed on, her curiosity outweighing her fear. As they rounded a corner, the beam of the flashlight fell upon a sight that made them both gasp in astonishment. Before them stood a heavy wooden door, its surface adorned with intricate carvings of hops vines and barley stalks. An air of mystery hung heavy around the door. It stood out against the dilapidated surroundings, its dark wood polished to a sheen. Intricate carvings, worn smooth with time, hinted at a reverence for the brewing craft that sent shivers down Jessica's spine. The carvings whispered of a time when brewing was more than a science, a time when magic and tradition intertwined to create something truly special.
This has to be it.
Liam whispered, his voice hushed with anticipation.
This is where the legend leads.
Jessica, her heart pounding in her chest, nodded in agreement. The air around them seemed to crackle with energy, as if the very walls of the brewery were holding their breath, waiting to see what secrets would be revealed. With a slow, deliberate movement, Liam turned the handle. The door creaked open as if reluctant to give up its secrets after years of silent guardianship. A cloud of dust billowed out, momentarily obscuring the room beyond. As the dust settled, Jessica and Liam gasped in unison. The room, bathed in an ethereal glow emanating from a hidden source, was not the abandoned storage room they had expected. Instead, they found themselves standing on the threshold of a brewer's sanctuary, a laboratory frozen in time. Shelves lined the walls, laden with bottles and jars filled with colorful liquids and powders. Ancient-looking brewing equipment, gleaming with an unnatural polish, stood in the center of the room, whispering tales of forgotten experiments and potent concoctions. The air hung heavy with the scent of herbs, spices, and something else, something indefinable, yet intoxicatingly familiar. Jessica, her eyes wide with wonder, took a tentative step into the room, her senses overwhelmed by the sheer age and mystery of the place. Liam, his initial hesitation forgotten, followed close behind, his gaze scanning the room, taking in every detail. His eyes fell on a heavy leather-bound book lying open on a workbench, its pages filled with handwritten notes and intricate diagrams.
This must be it.
He breathed, his voice trembling with excitement. Jessica peered over his shoulder, her breath catching in her throat as she saw the title of the book, The Elixir of Life, a brewer's guide to animated ales. The pages, brittle with age, whispered of ancient brewing traditions, of forgotten ingredients, and of a magic that seemed both impossible and undeniably real. As they turned the pages, their excitement grew. The recipe, written in a language that seemed both familiar and strangely alien, spoke of a unique combination of hops, malt, yeast, and a secret ingredient, a mystical element known only as the heart of the brew. S1, the recipe.
The heart of the brew.
Jessica murmured, her voice barely a whisper.
What do you think it is?
Liam, his brow furrowed in concentration, shook his head slowly.
I don't know, but I have a feeling we'll figure it out.
A sudden glint in his eye betrayed his growing excitement.
What do you say, Jessica? Ready to brew some magic?
Jessica, her initial apprehension replaced by a surge of exhilaration, met Liam's gaze with a newfound boldness. She said, her voice firm despite the tremor of anticipation that ran through her. And so, with a shared sense of adventure and a healthy dose of trepidation, Jessica and Liam embarked on a brewing experiment unlike any they had ever attempted before. They gathered the ingredients, their hands moving with a newfound confidence as they followed the ancient instructions, their laughter echoing through the silent laboratory. S1, let's do it. The brewery, usually a place of predictable routines and controlled fermentation, seemed to vibrate with a newfound energy as Jessica and Liam worked their magic. The ancient recipe, a blend of tradition and arcane knowledge, flowed through their hands, transforming the mundane act of brewing into something akin to a sacred ritual.
As they added each ingredient, the air crackled with anticipation, the scent of hops and barley taking on an almost otherworldly quality.
The final step, the addition of the elusive heart of the brew, filled them with a sense of nervous excitement. After much debate and careful examination of the ancient text, they had settled on a rare bioluminescent flower discovered growing wild near the brewery, its petals pulsing with an ethereal light that seemed to mirror the glowing heart depicted in the book.
As they carefully added the flower's essence to the brew, the laboratory was bathed in an otherworldly glow, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and something akin to stardust.
And then, something extraordinary happened. The brewery, as if awakened from a deep slumber, sprang to life around them. Stainless steel tanks hummed and vibrated, their contents swirling with a life of their own. Copper pipes groaned and hissed, carrying the enchanted brew through their metallic veins. The air filled with the sounds of bubbling, fizzing, and the joyous clinking of glasses, as if the brewery itself was celebrating the birth of something truly magical.
Jessica and Liam watched in awe as their creation, no longer a simple beer but a living, breathing entity, began to take shape. Golden light emanated from the fermentation tanks, casting dancing shadows on the walls.
The air crackled with energy, charged with the promise of something extraordinary. They had done it. They had brewed magic. But as the initial euphoria faded, a sense of unease crept in. What had they unleashed? The brewery transformed into a whimsical, chaotic wonderland. Animated beer bottles, frothing with mischief, clinked together, their glass bodies glowing with an internal light. Kegs, suddenly imbued with a rambunctious spirit, rolled through the brewery, their laughter echoing off the stainless steel tanks.
Hops vines, now sentient and playful, danced around Jessica and Liam, their fragrant cones brushing against their cheeks like mischievous sprites.
Jessica and Liam, initially stunned into silence, couldn't help but laugh as they found themselves swept up in the brewery's infectious joy. The air, thick with the scent of hops and barley, crackled with magic, each breath intoxicating them with a sense of wonder.
"I told you it was magic," he shouted, his voice barely audible above the joyous din.
Jessica, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and a strange, unfamiliar longing, returned his gaze, her usual clumsiness forgotten in the face of such pure, unadulterated joy.
"I never doubted you for a second," she replied, her voice barely a whisper, yet it reached him across the brewery, a secret shared amidst the chaos.
As the weeks turned into a whirlwind of late-night brewing sessions and magical escapades, Jessica and Liam found themselves drawn closer together, their shared love for brewing now intertwined with something deeper, something that sent shivers down their spines and left them breathless with anticipation every time their eyes met. They experimented with the enchanted recipes, their laughter echoing through the brewery as they brought to life brews that shimmered like moonlight, tasted like a summer breeze, and left a trail of sparkling stardust in their wake. Jessica, her confidence blossoming under Liam's encouraging gaze, discovered a hidden talent for coaxing the most whimsical creations from the enchanted ingredients. Liam, in turn, found himself captivated by Jessica's infectious enthusiasm and her uncanny ability to find magic in the most unexpected places. One cool evening, as the setting sun cast long shadows across the brewery floor, Jessica and Liam found themselves alone in the tasting room, surrounded by the remnants of their latest brewing triumph, a beer that shimmered with the colors of 1,000 sunsets. The air, thick with the aroma of toasted caramel and a hint of cinnamon, crackled with unspoken tension, a shift in the atmosphere that neither of them could quite place.
"Jessica," he began, his voice husky with emotion. But before he could utter the words that had been swirling in his mind for weeks, a figure emerged from the shadows, interrupting the moment.
It was Emily, Liam's ex-girlfriend, her arrival as unexpected as a summer hailstorm. Emily, a successful businesswoman with a sharp wit and an even sharper tongue, had always been a source of unspoken insecurity for Jessica. Her effortless elegance and air of sophistication stood in stark contrast to Jessica's own clumsy charm, making her feel like a pale imitation.
"Liam, there you are," Emily said, her voice cool and composed, her gaze sweeping over Jessica with a dismissive glance. "I've been trying to reach you all day. We need to talk about the marketing campaign for the new IPA."
Liam, his carefully crafted words dissolving into the ether, felt a wave of frustration wash over him. He had been trying to avoid this conversation, had been dreading the inevitable confrontation with Emily, and now, just as he was about to finally confess his feelings for Jessica, his past had come back to haunt him.
"Emily, this isn't the time or the place," he said, his voice tight with annoyance. "Can't this wait until tomorrow?"
Jessica, her heart sinking into her stomach like a lead weight, felt a familiar pang of insecurity grip her. Emily's arrival, so unexpected yet so inevitable, felt like a confirmation of her deepest fears. She was just a clumsy brewer, a temporary distraction in Liam's life, while Emily, with her sophistication and ambition, represented everything Jessica felt she could never be. "It seems I've interrupted something," Emily said, her voice laced with a hint of bitterness, her gaze fixed on Jessica. "I apologize for the intrusion."
Before I could utter a word in response, Jessica, her eyes stinging with unshed tears, gathered her things and made a hasty retreat, her heart shattering with every step.
She couldn't bear to witness their exchange, couldn't stand the thought of Liam choosing Emily over her. She fled the brewery, the sounds of her own ragged breaths echoing in her ears, the image of Liam and Emily together seared into her mind.
Torn between my past and my present, I watched helplessly as Jessica disappeared into the night, my heart heavy with regret. I tried to call after her, to explain, to apologize, but the words caught in my throat, choked by the weight of unspoken feelings and the realization that I had just made a colossal mistake. He turned to face Emily, his frustration and disappointment evident in his voice. "This is exactly why I didn't want to talk about this now," I said, my words sharp and laced with an anger I didn't fully understand.
Emily, her composure finally cracking, her carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of her own heartbreak, met his gaze with a mixture of anger and sadness. "Why, Liam? Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why are you pushing me away?"
My anger dissipating as quickly as it had arrived, I ran a hand through my hair, my shoulders slumping with defeat. I had hurt Jessica, pushed her away with my silence and my inability to confront my past. And now, I was faced with the prospect of losing her completely.
The air hung heavy between them, thick with unspoken words and the bitter taste of regret. The brewery, usually a place of warmth and camaraderie, suddenly felt cold and unwelcoming, the magic that had once filled its walls now replaced by a heavy silence.
I knew I had to fix this, had to find Jessica and explain everything. But as I looked out into the darkness, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had waited too long, that I had let the opportunity for happiness slip through my fingers like spilled beer.
The annual St. Petersburg Brewers Guild competition was fast approaching, casting a long shadow over Jessica's heartbreak. It was a prestigious event, a chance for local brewers to showcase their skills and compete for the coveted Golden Keg Trophy. Jessica, usually brimming with excitement for the competition, found herself struggling to find the motivation. The joy had been sucked out of brewing, replaced by a dull ache in her chest that intensified every time Liam's name was mentioned.
I've thrown myself into preparing for the competition, hoping that a grand gesture might win back Jessica's heart. I'm spending hours in the brewery, meticulously crafting a new recipe, my every thought consumed by the hope of redemption. But my usually steady hands tremble, and my brow furrows with worry. The magic seems to have vanished from my brews, replaced by a bitterness that mirrors my own emotional state.
The brewery, once a shared sanctuary, now felt like a battleground of unspoken emotions. Jessica, determined to prove her worth, buried herself in her work, avoiding any interaction with Liam beyond curt greetings and forced smiles. Liam, his attempts at conversation met with icy silence, watched her from afar, his heart aching for a chance to explain, to apologize, to tell her how foolish he had been. The other brewers, sensing the tension between them, steered clear, their usual banter hushed whispers as they navigated the minefield of Jessica and Liam's heartbreak. The air hummed with unfulfilled potential, the magic of the brewery dimmed by the weight of their unspoken feelings. As the day of the competition drew closer, the tension grew, threatening to boil over like a forgotten pot of wort on a hot stove. Master brewer Silas, a man who had seen more than his fair share of brewing disasters and love gone wrong, observed the unfolding drama with a knowing twinkle in his eye. A grizzled veteran of the brewing world, Silas possessed a wisdom that extended far beyond the intricacies of hops and yeast. He had a knack for seeing the heart of the matter, for identifying the subtle imbalances that threatened to derail even the most carefully crafted brew, both literal and metaphorical. He had watched Jessica and Liam's relationship blossom amidst the gleaming tanks and bubbling carboys, had witnessed the spark of magic that ignited between them.
Jessica, my dear, sometimes the most challenging brews are the ones that require us to look beyond the recipe. You and Liam, you have created something truly special, a magic that goes beyond the sum of its parts. Don't let a simple misunderstanding, a misplaced ingredient, ruin what you have built together.
Jessica, startled by his unexpected appearance, looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and a flicker of hope. Silas, his gaze steady and reassuring, continued, his words planting a seed of doubt in her mind, a flicker of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, not all was lost. The magic, he implied, was still there, waiting to be rekindled, if only they had the courage to fan the flames. As the day of the competition dawned, a nervous energy crackled through the brewery. The air, thick with the aroma of hops and anticipation, buzzed with the hushed whispers of brewers making last-minute adjustments to their creations. Jessica, her heart heavy with a mixture of hope and trepidation, arrived early, seeking solace in the familiar routine of preparing her brewing station. She had poured her heart and soul into her entry, a delicate yet complex ale infused with the essence of the bioluminescent flower, its flavor a testament to the magic she and Liam had created together.
I've spent the past few days agonizing over my mistakes, replaying my every interaction with Jessica in my mind, searching for a way to make amends. I've poured all my regret, all my hope for a second chance, into my own competition entry, a rich, dark stout that I hope will convey the depth of my feelings.
As the competition got underway, Jessica and Liam found themselves drawn to each other's brewing stations, their eyes meeting across the crowded room, a silent conversation passing between them. The judges, captivated by her passion and the unique flavor profile of her creation, showered Jessica with compliments, their praise music to her ears. Liam, watching from the sidelines, his heart swelling with pride, realized that he had been a fool to ever doubt her talent, her strength, her ability to shine even without him by her side. Jessica, her carefully constructed walls crumbling under the weight of his sincerity, found herself unable to speak. She had longed to hear him say those words, had replayed countless imaginary conversations in her mind. But now, faced with the reality of his presence, she could only nod, her eyes welling up with unshed tears. S1, Jessica, wait, I just wanted to say congratulations. Your ale it was incredible.
Jessica, I was a fool to ever doubt you, to ever let you think that you weren't enough. Emily, that was the past. You are my future. You are the magic in my brew, the hops to my malt, the yeast to my wort. I know that was cheesy, but it's true.
Jessica, unable to hold back any longer, threw her arms around him, the golden keg clattering to the floor, forgotten in the face of their reunion. Liam held her close, his own eyes stinging with unshed tears, the weight of his mistakes lifting from his shoulders as he breathed in the familiar scent of her hair, a blend of hops and something infinitely sweeter. As the brewery bustled around them, oblivious to their private reconciliation, Jessica and Liam sealed their love with a kiss, a sweet, lingering taste of second chances and the promise of a future brewed together, one magical batch at a time. The golden keg, now lying forgotten on the brewery floor, gleamed under the warm glow of the overhead lights, a silent testament to the transformative power of love, a love as intoxicating and enduring as the perfect brew.